Good
So
morning.
welcome. I guess we're live. You guys, Chris is going to join us in a few minutes, but we're going to have Sarah really talk about content today because all of us at the beginning really struggle with content, and it's really all about finding your voice, right?
Yes, and about a million other things, but yes, ultimately, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think you can share. Do you have slide share, Sarah? Or are you just going to talk?
You know what? I don't have slides because I thought today we might just keep it simple and just talk because more than like hammering information, I just want to have like an honest conversation about content. Um, I I think the more people I work with now, and I mean I'm talking about um, hundreds of small business owners and a lot of authors, what I'm seeing is they're looking at content the wrong way. It's a chore. They don't know what to do with it. They're confused about it. They don't know what works. I mean, the list is a mile long. I know you hear this too from
All the time. All
all of
the
your
time.
clients. So I want to kind of pivot the conversation around content and and talk about that a little bit.
Okay,
And
before you get started, can I add in about authors?
I would love that. And I also want to say something about content calendars before we really jump in. So
Yes, 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 you need one. So, you guys, the reason we are doing this is because most of our business is referral and publishing. And I maybe get 1 out of 10 authors who have had good content out there and been nurturing for at least a year before. And I think that's where we're really struggling to get books onto bestseller lists right now is when people bring us a book, they've written a whole book. So they've had all of their messaging ready, but they either don't know how to use social media or they haven't developed content. They haven't built an audience. And so it becomes an even bigger, they don't know how to lead people to the next steps.
yep.
So we are literally starting from square one without that because these people don't have a consistent, engaged audience. Okay, take it.
No, that's such a valid point, and it's like that's why we're here right now having this conversation because 1 out of 10 is actually pretty good. I think sometimes it's a little bit worse odds than that you get someone who actually has a platform, who actually has thought about putting content out, who's actually comfortable putting content out, and knows what they want to say and all of that. So, yeah. So a couple of things about content, maybe. Three things I kind of like to break it down into. One, content is because people, let me back up a minute. People want to know, what do you mean by content? It's everything. So we're going to say marketing is your house. Content is all the decorations inside. So marketing would be your website, right? Or your author page or your Facebook group. Your content is everything you're going to put inside that house. Everything you're going to put on that website, everything that is you saying, "Hey, this is who I am." So content is the thing people are looking for when they're trying to answer a question, fill a void, figure something out, right? It's the thing people are using to try to figure out whether you're legitimate or maybe you're full of shit. They don't know. And three, on the author side, content seems to be the thing. And I love talking to Tracy Hazard about this, that people say takes the most time but gets little results. Okay. And it's wrong. That's so wrong. So I really want to talk about that today too.
Yeah, that you know what that is. So let's address that because when we talk about results, I think we're assuming that results are sales. Results equals sales.
Ah,
What
such a good
results
point. Yes,
equal is conversations and engagement. And
yep.
that conversation and engagement leads to sales. So I
Exactly.
think people are forgetting, like they're going from A to C
Yep,
and skipping B and not understanding here. And that I think is the fault of digital marketers everywhere
it
who
is.
have given people that this is an instant gratification thing. You
Mhm.
put out A and you're going to get C.
Yep.
And you have to do this for quite a while because you're building trust. But it's starting those conversations. And I don't mean a click. I mean, hey, Sarah, let's talk about this.
Yep.
Let's,
In a genuine way.
yeah. So not even calling it a strategy session. It bothers me when we say strategy session, because when I jump on with people, it's not a strategy session. It's a, let's hear what you have. Okay, here are some suggestions. And usually when you approach it as I care and I'm not going to sit here and sell you something, you will find that they will come and say, all right, so how much are we talking about here? And what do you suggest? And so all of a sudden it's like that awkward sales thing comes out because you already built their trust with the content.
It's so true. It's so true. And that's part of the reason I kind of despise funnels. You know, you see these ads, everybody's a coach on Facebook, everybody's a coach on Instagram, and it's really seeping into LinkedIn too. And the whole thing is like done for you, you know, like we'll take care of everything. You'll make six figures, and they're skipping the part in the middle, like you said, where you have to build relationships and trust. Like, okay, let's say you get a sales funnel and it really kicks ass and it does what it's supposed to, and then it falls off after, you know, you ride the wave for a few months. Then what? You have no platform, you have no engagement, you have no community, you are not consistently posting, you've not gotten any better at creating content. So what did you do? Nothing.
Yeah. There used
But
to be this guy over on Facebook who had a group, and every 3 months he would reach out and he'd say, hey, Juliet, are you interested? I have this program that is 6 figures in 6 months doing blah, 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 blah. And every time I would go back and I'd say, wow, you know what? Can I talk to some of your really satisfied people? And then he would go away. And then he would come back like 6 months later. Yeah.
there are
And I would
zero.
ask the same question. And he was a very popular person over there. So I don't know if people weren't getting results or they weren't getting the promise, the big juicy promise, but it was kind of hilarious that every time I asked for that, I got, see you in 6 months.
Oh my goodness. Oh, and I mean, I see that all the time. So, I mean, what you said is exactly the way we should be thinking about it. So if I'm saying like your marketing is your house and your content is all the decorations in your house, you're not trying to sell your decorations when people come in. They're there because you want them to get a sense of who you are. You want them to feel comfortable. You want things to look nice. You know, you want some cohesion. You want some sort of foundation. It doesn't have anything to do about sales in the beginning. And that's where things go south so quick, because that's what a lot of people are telling authors to do. So let's go to content calendars for just a minute, because you and I have gone on like major ranting sessions about this. We'll save the people of LinkedIn from that today. But National Hot Dog Day does not need to be part of your content strategy. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
come on. I saw that. That was real. Okay, that was a real suggestion on a free gift, free guide that an author coach or a book coach was giving out. And I'm sorry, but like just slapping up the same garbage kind of post that everybody and their brother's putting up just for the sake of putting content up. Like, you would not just randomly put a picture of a hot dog in your living room because someone told you to.
Well,
Like,
some
that's
people.
it's your decorations, right? So like, why are we doing this? Some people might.
Yeah, and you know what? That was really crazy because the free gift was a calendar with all of these holidays on it. And seriously, in my content calendar, I will put a graphic for Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year. I think a Happy Easter, maybe 4th of July. I think I put in one for Memorial Day, Veterans Day. But it's not the rest of the year unless a
Not
hot dog.
National Hot Dog Day.
I know, unless a hot dog is part of your messaging,
Right.
there's no reason to understand that. What you do need to understand about that content calendar is that you need one, because it keeps you consistent, it keeps you organized, and if you're doing it the right way and developing content, it takes me about an hour to put one together.
Yeah.
I have to do it over a little bit of time because some of the assets, because of our magazine, are late. But there's no reason why this should be, if you're creating content, why this should be such a big deal.
Right. It's so true. And one of the things I think is like just getting over that hump, because the more you do it, the better you get at it, the easier it becomes, the quicker you become at building out your calendar. And really, the better you get at coming up with content that's consistent with your brand anyway, or your book. So it's like you have to take those first few baby steps that everybody's wanting to skip. So, the first month of your content calendar, maybe it takes you 2 hours to sit down and do 2 hours for 30 days worth of posts. If they're authentic and genuine, that's not a bad time sink, because those relationships are going to be monetized down the road. Just because they don't have a dollar sign on them right now, they are going to turn into a piece of your monetization down the road. So it's like that is something also, when we're talking about the process. Okay, so you spent a couple hours building a calendar, you got it down to an hour. 1 hour a month for relationship building is nothing. I do this for 45 minutes every morning with my coffee. I have dedicated engagement time where I get on, I set a timer, I get on LinkedIn and I scroll. Instead of, scrolling Johnny Depp and Amber Heard or puppies or whatever's going on, for an hour mindlessly, I set a 10-minute timer. I search on LinkedIn hashtags that I really, really align with my brand, like maybe writers community or author life, or a couple. There are probably 20 that I kind of jump around from. But I do that. I see what other people who are using those hashtags are doing, and I engage with them. I like their posts. I comment on their posts. If I see something I really like, I'll save it. And maybe I want to do something like that down the road. That really resonates with me. So this kind of like in between relationship building time where you have to slow down, where you're not putting a price tag on it, it can't be skipped. It's more important than whatever when you get to your sales pitch, whatever you're selling at the end.
Yeah, I agree. Hey, Chris.
Sorry, tech difficulties. I had to switch computers.
That's okay. That's okay. We went on without you. So let's get down to, we talked a little bit about that content calendar, content and repurposing. So recently I had Nina Fro-Reap on one of my podcasts, and she actually did a post, because she's a fabulous repurposer, about how well we repurposed our content. And it was because we took a simple recording of a podcast. It is transcribed. It is over on YouTube. It's on our website. It's and on every podcast platform. But then we had Sarah write it into an article for the magazine. Then we made posts out of them. So it went on. And even further, which I don't do well, but I know other people do, is taking snippets of those podcasts and doing, what are they called, Sarah? It always.
Audiograms?
Yeah, audiograms. So there are so many ways that you can do this once you have that initial content created. And for us, it's the podcast. So literally I spent maybe 45 minutes a week. 45 hours. No, 45 minutes.
Man, that is one episode.
Yeah, recording, uploading, and I'm done. It's on my content calendar, and then, finding those ways to repurpose it. So how long every week would you say is a good amount to spend on creating the content, the initial piece?
Oh my gosh, that's a great question. And we need to talk about video with repurposing, because nobody wants to talk about video, but it has to happen. You've got to get over that hump. So I would say if you were doing that for yourself, you would set aside maybe 2 to 3 hours a week. If you're going to record a podcast episode, the time it takes you to record, if you're doing any amount of editing, which I know most people starting out are not, they're just uploading their sound, their audio, and their video. And from there, the apps and platforms that you can use for the audiograms, putting things on YouTube, transcribing, they do all the work for you. And you're talking about minimal fees, if not free, memberships on some of these. So I would say starting out as a brand new, fresh newborn baby, 3 hours. That's it. And to me, that's not that big of a time commitment. I do content 24/7. I understand, but I don't think that's too much to start building up an author platform.
That's interesting. And you guys, this right here that we're using, this Restream, this is a great way to do this because we are streaming right now on my YouTube channel. When Sarah jumped on and when Chris jumped on, there is a mechanism where the hardest part about having a podcast is getting people to share or having a webinar. They literally, when they logged in, hit a button to share on their streams as well. So they're on LinkedIn and they're on YouTube right now. So, I don't know. Are you either of you on Facebook anymore?
I am streaming on Facebook right now.
Are you? Okay.
Yep.
We won't insult Mark Zuckerberg right now. But that's just the way, because I think that, Sarah, is really hard too, is you create this content and you have people on your podcast. And I will tell you guys something from my own personal, Sarah, share if you've had this too. I cultivate my own guests on my podcast because I want them to be educational. I want them to be interesting. Here's what I don't want. I don't want that famous person on there because every time I get roped into, oh, this guy's huge, he doesn't share.
They're not going to share it.
They're not going to share it. So have people on that are interesting that you can give exposure to, that will be grateful and will share and do have audiences. So I think that's really key too. I'm not going to mention the three people that I've had on that are just really big. One of them was a favor. One of them I was really excited about because I used the principles in his book. And the third one was, I'm not even sure where I got him, but he was an egomaniac. And, but none of them shared ever.
No, they don't. They don't. The point of a guest like that, if you have a network and you can pull some people with big names that are recognizable, is to get more guests. It's to give you a little bit of finesse, so people are like, oh, she talks to those people. Okay, maybe I want to talk to her too. They're never going to share your shit ever. They're not. And they have whole teams of people that could literally share it too, and they're still not going to do it.
Yes.
So yeah, you have to have meaningful guests and podcasting. I love, because there's so much opportunity, especially for women. I feel the females that are kind of coming into podcasting now, they're making big waves. They're doing big things. They're kind of just taking over, and it's a gradual thing. And Tracy Hazard and I've talked about this so many times because she's Podetize and Feed Your Brand, and literally as an experiment every single year just starts a new podcast to see if she can still do it and how difficult it is and all of this. So, but podcasting is like, it's like once you record that first episode and you do it with audio and video, that piece of content is like a vampire. It literally will never die. It lives on YouTube as long as your channel is up. If your hashtag is good and someone searches it in 10 years, your video is going to come up. It doesn't matter what the date is. So, I mean, there's like, if you can get your foot in the door on podcasting, that is the content where it can become just a lifetime of content. And like you were talking about, using it everywhere.
Yeah. Here's the other thing too. Be careful who you engage to do those podcasts, because there are a couple platforms out there that you don't realize, that thing you click and you go, oh yeah, I accept everything. They actually own your rights. So be sure that you're using the right platforms when you do it. I don't know did you guys ever see, oh gosh, who was it? South Park, the one where you click the apple. I know you guys know, like, why is she bringing this up? I'm so embarrassed. But
I'm just laughing because I've seen it.
So for those of you who haven't seen it, go look at the episode, because they click and then all of a sudden their mouth is attached to somebody else's rear end. So there's this big chain of people who just clicked and they try to get out of it. And they're like, no, you clicked, you signed the contract. And it really is, because it's like these things are so big and nobody reads them.
Yeah.
Nobody reads them. And I am not surprised that you used that example, but that just made my whole day. Oh my gosh.
Okay. You're probably surprised I watched South Park. Let me just share with you, only because my kids made me watch a couple episodes.
Chris and I are like, nope, we're not surprised.
Chris, what do you want to say about content? I know you jumped in late. We've been monopolizing here.
Oh yeah. What I've been experiencing with the authors that I've been developing their books, helping them with that, is we are able to take like snippets out and use them for things like video trailers or other kinds of trailers. One of my clients contacted me yesterday, and she needed help with that. And she told me what she wanted to focus on. We pulled something right out of her book to help her. Mm-hmm. So there's so many ways you can repurpose content. And one thing I want to tell people is, don't worry about getting everything you know in a book. You're not going to get everything you know in a book. You're better off focusing on one thing and going deep. And then if there's another aspect of your business that's really important, doing a second book and taking that piece and going deep. There's so many advantages. Number one, you don't have to write a book that's, a Shakespeare volume, all collected Shakespeare works. It's this fat. You get to focus on one thing, which is much easier to write. And you end up with a whole bunch of titles under your name instead of one. Mm-hmm. And then when you start taking those pieces, when you go on as guests, you can do it multiple times for each piece. So you've got lots of opportunity to use repurposed content. People think they have to come up with something new all the time. I'm sure you touched on that already. And you don't, because people need to hear it over and over. They don't know what you know. Mm-hmm. So they have to hear it over and over so that they get it. So don't be afraid of that. Just kind of breathe and think in terms of, taking what you know and making it work in many different ways. And we can help with that. I help my clients all the time with that. And if I get stumped, I call Juliet or Sarah.
I was just telling a client yesterday, she's like, I don't know where to start. I'm like, pick up your book, hit record on your phone, and read a 30-second snippet. You already wrote it. It belongs to you. It's already there. Start sharing it. And she was like, I can do that? I'm like, do that. Yes. Yeah. And also, you're not the Atlantic. You know what I mean? Like, no one's expecting these 1,500 word, like op-ed, like blog posts where you're, doing research where you go to Asia or like, it's like, come on, just keep it simple. Talk about what you know. Like you said, Chris, it doesn't have to be this like overdone massive thing. Be yourself. And then, as you learn and as you grow and as you get more traction, more of your voice out there, more of an audience, then you start sharing more. Or maybe you don't because you like to keep it simple. But if you start there, like you said, just basic, it doesn't have to be this,
Yeah, don't overwhelm yourself. Yeah. Overwhelm is the enemy, no matter what you're doing. We're entrepreneurs, we're busy, we have lives, we have families, we have 8 million things, and we're women, so we have 8 million things coming at us anyway. And, it's
true, yeah.
And it's just, take one thing and it grows. It starts to snowball without you having to do so much work all the time. So, yeah, it really.
And I want to mention that author that Sarah's talking about used that clip to go get herself a TV interview. She's working with our media experts. So, that was something really simple. So I'm going to go back a little bit. Chris is a book developer. Sarah's a book developer. And people think when they come to me like, oh, now we're going to start marketing since I'm a publisher. And I always have a problem at that point because we should have been doing this the entire time we wrote the book. Yeah. So if people want to know, when do you start on this? It's when you start, because that book developer is going to develop your messaging. The book is going to be written along lines of that message. And then you need to be able to create content that leads people to that message. But even bigger, not only do people come to us and they don't have that, they don't have the next step after the book. The book is not going to make you millions of dollars. You are not Jack Canfield. What it will do is be used as the nurture tool along with that content to whatever is next that is your moneymaker. So you need that plan in front of you from the beginning so you know where you're going with all of this. So
It's
what
so
additional
true.
assets do you need? What's that content? Where can I get that message? People that are in our hybrid publishing that work with our media expert, we tell the media expert, this is where we're going with this. We have someone right now who has a book on feminism, diversity, and equity. She's out on TV talking about Roe v. Wade. What's going on with that? She's out. So because the media expert has those topics and understands, she has the opportunity to look for those other opportunities for her to get her face on now, even though that book isn't coming out until the end of July. We're building that audience for her. So really, really crucial that you start with these guys, Sarah or Chris, like from the beginning.
Yeah, it's like building an ecosystem almost, because when you start with chapter 1 of your book, and let's say you start, you also start building a Facebook community at that time, you're going to start engaging with people and you're going to feel kind of a renewed sense of energy about what you want to create. And it just drives your content. So as you're even working through the chapters of your book, you're engaging with people and it's giving you energy. It's giving you that kind of, hype that you need to keep finishing your book, to keep working on it. And at the same time, you're getting consistent messaging where what you're sharing online is what's going in your book and vice versa. And it solidifies what you're saying, because it's like, Chris, I know this is like your, and probably every single day, but people are afraid before their book is done to jump in. And it's like, no, do not wait, start right now, because that's going to help solidify your book message. So
it definitely does. And here's the other thing, you guys, the not only starting and working through that at the beginning, but being able to test your message along the way. Is it resonating? Am I in the right place? A couple of years ago, I had a woman who had a program called Solo to CEO. And she insisted, because she knew Facebook, that it had to be over there. Her audience is clearly on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And the whole thing failed. And it failed because she didn't test, and she was stubborn about not learning a new platform. Yeah. And that was the kiss of death. People on LinkedIn, women on LinkedIn would have loved that, because that's probably that biggest struggle is, how do I grow into a real CEO and get myself out of my business?
I know I'm going to reveal that I'm a huge nerd, but one of the things that struck me from one of the Star Trek movies was that people think two-dimensionally. They think linear. They think, oh, I do this first and then I do that. I'll write my book and then I'll find my audience. And I think what we're creating here is more of a three-dimensional thing where they exist simultaneously. You have to kind of, when you create a book and you're creating content and you're building your business, it's not linear. It's not one thing altogether. And it doesn't have, that sounds overwhelming, but it's actually less overwhelming, because like we just said, you take, like your client who read a snippet of her book, that's huge, and it's very simple. And Juliet is the most brilliant person ever about marketing, getting your author platform built.
Oh yeah.
Everybody,
yeah. I'll send you your check later. I'll Venmo you. When people say I can't do both, what we're really doing here is building a little bit of digital marketing too. Yeah. And anybody who tells you that you're going to get in a digital marketing course and you're going to know it inside and out within 3 to 6 months is selling you a bill of goods. The thing is all of this has to be integrated, but it doesn't happen overnight too, because most of the time you're integrating platforms, you're integrating a lot of new stuff you're creating. And so you need to give yourself and your book launch the time to get all of that integrated in place, because it really is a big learning curve.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'm even going to add that when COVID hit, our business just exploded. But one of the things that happened with that is people would get on the phone with us with the sessions, and they'd say, okay, so I don't have an online strategy. I don't have a digital strategy. So can you have me up and running and monetizing within 3 months? And it's like, no, no, we can't. And so, there were a lot of really unrealistic expectations going on then, because for some people, it takes years to integrate all of those different things and really
think about this. When you're an author and you write a book, okay, everything in that book you have cultivated through a lifetime of experiences, right? So you have to create space and time to do the same thing online in your digital world, right? So it is never going to happen overnight. It is never going to be that somebody else can 100% do it for you. People can help, people can guide, people can teach, but ultimately it is you saying, this is who I am, and now I'm okay telling people that.
Yeah. And let me just add there too. You bring up such a great point, Sarah. When you hire other people to do it for you, that doesn't mean that you can skip your authenticity and your messaging, because probably one of the biggest failures I see when people hire a marketing company is they get this little questionnaire that says, who's your audience? What's your message? And I hate to break this to you guys, but if you're disengaged from your marketing, it's not going to work. It just never works.
People know, they can sense it. We are great detectors of false truths, half truth, lie, whatever it is. It doesn't matter.
Bullshit?
Like we sense it. Yeah. We have built-in bullshit detectors, so we know right away if something's off with the marketing. And I actually love doing that with clients. When they come to me, they're like, "This is not working," and I'll be like, "Well, here's a few things. First of all, let's talk about the hot dog in your logo."
or why did you use those colors? Here's a great example, Sarah. The other day, Chris and I were at an event, and I was the keynote there. And it was funny because we talked afterwards, and there was someone there that everybody thought was so amazing because she was a name dropper. I've got this, I've got that, I've got blah, 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 blah. And when we went to vote on something, I actually put forward that, yeah, she's a name dropper. Is she an action taker? And by the way, she's not monetized. So how connected is she really? And you'll see a lot of that inside this business, where people come and they're going to tell you how amazing they are, but they're not monetized. So it's like, if this was such a great idea and you're so amazing,
why isn't it working?
Why isn't it working?
Yeah. That's the whole mentality too of online marketing, where everybody, instead of putting in the grunt work, like we've all done and spend 10, 12, 15 years in the dirt building, an actual business, they want to skip that part and be a consultant or a coach that teaches other people how to build a business. And you can't skip that part. And it's just like content in a book. You cannot skip the platform building.
So true. Okay, so you guys, I want to share, we have a content creation crash course coming up in June. And this is really for that person who you want to get your book developed, you got a great idea. This is sort of the kickstart into working with Chris on book development. She has an amazing system that is so easy to use. And it's actually very similar to what I used to use for my fiction books as well. So day one is all about her helping you develop your book. Day two is, I believe, me working on who is that audience. Let's get that deep research in. And day three is Sarah working on your social media and your posts. And the dates on that, is it the 15th?
It is. I am actually screen sharing right now. I'm going to stop in just a second, but June 15th, 16th, and 17th.
And it's just 2 hours a day in the morning. And we're going to be working with you guys personally on that. And it'll help you get your, your book started, heading towards being finished, but also getting yourself out there and getting known. So, it's for those who are struggling, you're tired, you're not sure how to finish your book, confused about social media. And, this is sort of that bring it together type of situation. So, what is the URL, Sarah, since you have it up?
It is www.contentcreationcrashcourse.com.
Yes. So we're running this in beta. You get lots of personal time with us. And the reason I mentioned beta is it's only $7.97 right now. And I can tell you once we get it going, but the price is definitely going to go up. So I would take advantage of it in beta. We are also, because we get quite a few people, I'm going to say that 55 to 80 demographic who are really struggling with social media. We actually are starting our first content course right after this. We will be running it again, but it's for those people who have written a book or are writing a book that just really I don't know how to use YouTube. I don't know how to, I will tell you guys, I had a client a couple of weeks ago. We spent 3 hours getting a YouTube video loaded. It was crazy. He didn't know where his passwords were. He didn't know how to get into Gmail. He didn't and it's that kind of thing where, the beginning, we just tried to spiff up his LinkedIn page and had to send the email how to do it 5 times. So, really for those people, because believe me, as much as it frustrates us, we know it frustrates you more. Yeah. So we'll probably be making some announcements about those courses as well. I think we'll probably be running the next one. We're running it this month, probably maybe July, or I don't know. When do we want to take a vacation? We might take a month's vacation too and just not have any classes. So.
Yeah, we got to think about that. But I think those, especially once we get rolling with those, and those classes are going to be so vital to the new authors that we're bringing in, because it's what's that very first step?
We're gonna get that 3-dimensional holistic approach started right from the start, so that you're being nurtured in it, through it all right from the start, and you that way you're not having to struggle and figure out the next step. We're right there with you.
Yeah. So again, www.contentcreationcrashcourse.net. And
it's .net. I said .com.
Oh, it's .net.
It's .net. Okay.
Contentcreationcrashcourse.net. And get yourself signed up, and as soon as you do, we'll probably be reaching out to get some pre-work done and find out a little bit about you, because we do want this course to be very personalized to what you're doing. So we want to look at what you're doing in advance before we get started. So thank you, ladies.
This was so fun. We got to talk about South Park.